song. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Bang, bang, bang.
Well, kids,
bang, goes
welcome
the
back
farmer's
to
gun.
American
back.
Girl Talk.
Run,
We're so
rabbit,
back.
run, rabbit.
Just two women talking about the girls that defined us. Well, not me, but Caroline maybe a little bit.
They're the girls that raised me.
The girls that raised Miss Caroline. It's another year around the sun for old Samantha dog. It's her birthday. We're here to talk
Happy
about
birthday.
Happy birthday, Samantha.
Samantha's birthday. Rich little girl has a birthday.
And you know what? It's kind of a shit birthday, but
It is.
I don't wanna spoil too much too early.
But speaking of events, and like we didn't discuss this ahead of time, but I feel like timing wise when this comes out, we should mention it. We're doing an American Girl bar crawl in March in Austin, Texas. So let's say we have 7 listeners. We know at least 2 of you live in Austin. Sorry to call you out and dox you, but
Doxing them. I feel like you gotta bleep their names out like you did with your
I will.
brother's name.
and you'll know who you are. But we'll be putting out details on that. But we're gonna do a bar crawl, I think, on Rainy Street, maybe during South by to like drum up some like fun interest. But it'll be American Girl doll themed. And if you've never been on one of our bar crawls before, it's pretty fun, I think. We have a good time. But
We're good.
I
We're
think
good
this
at it.
episode should come out like mid-February. Like
Mhm.
yeah. So I just wanted to give a little prep ahead, and we'll give more details in future episodes as they come out and on our social channels. But yeah, speaking of events and American Girl dolls going wrong, we want to talk about that. So keep an eye out for that
So
information.
Stay tuned.
And if you want to come to Austin, that would be insane, but do it.
But do it. You know what? We'll buy you a drink. One drink.
We'll buy you
If
one
come.
drink.
We'll buy you one drink if you come. And dress up.
Dress up as your
speaking-
favorite girl.
Yeah. But you have to be ready to defend why that one's your favorite.
Yeah.
So,
We'll separate into teams. If
Be
you like
ready.
Molly, then you can only drink beer.
yeah, we're going to duke it out. We're going to fight you. Probably. But
Probably.
before we jump in, I wanted to address the cover art of this book.
Oh, yes.
I think it makes her birthday outfit look insane. Allow me to describe it. She's wearing a pink pinstripe underdress, like base dress. On top of it, she has like a lacy apron-esque smock. And then she's wearing stockings that have lace trim on the top and a bow. And then on the bottom, another bow. And then she's wearing little ballerina slippers. And then on her head, she's wearing, which we later learn is like a family heirloom gift. She's wearing like a little rose headband, which also has more bows on it. So it's a lot of bows. It's kind of giving clown. I just feel like she looks crazy in it. It's a lacy nightmare. And I only point it out because I think that the doll version of the outfit actually looks kind of cute. But I feel like the art makes it look nuts.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think she looks fabulous in this outfit. I think it's every little girl's frilly lace dream to be absolutely decked out in as many bows as possible.
Is
Bows
it?
on your ankles, ankle bows,
Okay,
double
but I'm
double
looking.
lace flower crown.
Okay, but I'm looking at her doll outfit right now. First of all, she's wearing black shoes, okay? And she has little, like, well, they look like they're fishnet, but it's like little
Sexy.
lacy stockings, yeah. And the headband looks less egregious. It looks a little cuter. And the lace is giving more. The dress has little lace cuffs on it. So I just feel like the doll outfit looks a lot cuter. And I feel like the book art is doing her dirty because I think
Doing her
Samantha
no
is
favors.
a cute little girl. She's a cute little gal.
She's a Victorian beauty.
That's right. Oh, she's in a pinafore dress. It's a pinafore.
Yeah. And in the I guess in one of the republishes of the artwork, her stockings are shorter, which kind of makes it a little bit less insane looking. So they're like shin length in the one cover we have, they are like knee-high socks. And that is kind of insane.
Yeah.
And then in the redone artwork from like the other editions, they're more like shin length. And they don't have the frill on the edges, which kind of helps a little bit, honestly.
Oh, okay. Honestly, this outfit, this whole art makes it look cuter. Her springtime story cover, the more modern one. Yeah.
She looks more like a brat in it, though.
That's true. She does look mischievous and like she's definitely going to ruin your vibe at the party. The other one, she looks more like elegant lady, but her outfit looks more like clown.
Yeah, it is just, it's a little bit much, but I also kind of think that's the hallmark of the Victorian era is to just literally be as decked out as possible in like frill, isn't it?
That's true. I think we should bring that back, to be honest with you.
Did you ever have a favorite birthday outfit? Like for like a party or like a school day that you got to choose?
For my 21st birthday, I did a Cowboys versus Aliens bar crawl. And I was wearing like a space themed kind of silver sequin sparkle dress. And then I had a custom crown that had 21 on it. And then I had like gotten my hair curled by like one of my friends because I didn't know how to curl my hair yet. And so probably that outfit is my favorite. Do you have one?
Yeah, of course. When I was in kindergarten, so completely different time in my life. My birthday's next week. But my birthday was on like a school day, and so my mom told me I could wear whatever I wanted to, and I had this like Snoopy dress that had a big picture of Snoopy on it, and I wore it to kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I look so good today. I have never looked better. And I had a crush on this guy named Arthur. And I was like, Arthur is going to think I look so cute. And it's going to be like the best birthday ever. And Arthur was like, oh, I love Snoopy. And I was like,
I bet
he
you
loves
do.
me. So that was my birthday outfit, was a Snoopy dress.
That's adorable. Or it sounds adorable.
It was a pretty cute dress. I mean, a little ginger kid in a Snoopy dress.
Love it. Okay, you have a note here about the timeline. Would you like to address that now?
Yeah, so, and I didn't check this in Kirsten, so maybe I'll go back and look too. Maybe I'll go back while I'm speaking. But so we had Samantha Surprise, which was a Christmas book, right? So we start out Samantha through Samantha Surprise in 1904. And then I was kind of looking just out of curiosity at the dates. And so this is in the spring. So it is after New Year's. So it should say 1905, right? But the book still says 1904. And same thing with Kirsten. I just looked at Kirsten's. It should be 1855. And it's still 1854. So the calendar year is a little bit weird with these books. And then I also was just kind of deep diving it. And every single one of the original girls, which I'm counting, we'll say Kaya, Felicity, Kirsten, Josefina, Samantha, Addie, Kit, and Molly, or I might be missing one, but those are the ones I kind of consider the original group.
Yeah.
All of their books, the year ends in a 4. So it's like 1764, 1774, 1864, 1854, 1824, 1934, 1944. And I was like, that's kind of a bit interesting and strange. And then I was kind of thinking back, like, did historical events typically happen in like the 4th year of a decade? Because like it does align with the Revolutionary War. It works for that. It's right before the Revolutionary War, I think. I'm trying to 1776 was the Revolutionary War, so it's right before the Revolutionary War, kind of. And obviously 1864 is Civil War, and 1944 aligns with like Pearl Harbor. So those 3 work. And then obviously like with Samantha and Kirsten, there isn't like a like cataclysmic historical event that happens.
Right.
But I guess I'm just wondering if they were going to choose a year to start it, what made them choose the 4? Because honestly, if they had started with Addie, 1864 Civil War, that almost made the most sense to kind of continue on. But Addie's the 4th or 5th release doll. So of the original 3, which is Kirsten, Samantha, and I guess Molly, 1944, Molly's is the only one that has like a year of importance, I guess, involved with it. So it was just a weird little trivia thing that I guess I hadn't noticed before, but looking through it and kind of doing a mini deep dive of it, I kind of thought that was like an interesting trend they continued on
to have.
And I don't know if they did it with Julie or not, which is the one that like you know of.
No, so they
Right.
didn't. Somebody says that all the original historical dolls have the number ending in 4, which you clocked. And then it says eventually the ones that Pleasant Rowland, the founder, was involved with, started to starting with Kaya, or after Kaya. No, Kaya was in 64, but Julie is in 74. And after that, they started to deviate from that with like the 90s dolls and like the other decade dolls that weren't necessarily as like mainline. Somebody said on this thread, which is Reddit, so take it for what you will or won't, that Pleasant Rowland's favorite number was 4. So perhaps it had some sort of significance for her. But everybody else sort of speculates like you do, which is that either close in line to some of these historical events without being sometimes directly in them. And then the other one is that some people speculate that it was the ending in 4. She could get a feeling for the middle of the decade without seeming too similar to the one before or after it.
Okay, that makes sense too. I'm fine with that. But yeah, that was just a little interesting thing that I wanted to kind of point out before we dive in, because I guess I didn't notice in the Kirsten books that the year didn't change on the cover. And I mean, it's arbitrary. It's not like it's that important. But we
Yeah.
basically follow all the girls for a year and a half because the end book is always a winter story again. So you follow a year and a half of their life. So it's just kind of interesting that I guess like of all the passing time notes we get, we don't get like a New Year's book or like a New Year's
Yeah.
story, you know?
It does seem interesting. I mean, maybe as we go on through some of the like later girls, depending on like the ones that we know less about. But I know like I think Julie's books deviate from the typical 4. I think she has a couple different ones in her main line.
I think the first started deviating because I was kind of looking into it a little bit. My mom, I found out I had the Kaya books and I had the Kit books.
Okay.
I didn't, and my sister had Samantha, and we had I had a Kit doll, and my sister had Samantha. I didn't have a Kaya doll, but I wanted the Kaya books. The Kaya books don't have the same formula, but that's because Kaya isn't like an American girl in the traditional sense. Like, I think Kaya has, she has Meet Kaya and Changes for Kaya, and and she has 6 books like the others, but it's like Meet Kaya, Kaya's Escape, Kaya's Hero, Kaya and the Lone Dog, Kaya Shows the Way, and then Changes for Kaya. So I think with Kaya, they start like because they couldn't do like because the Nez Perce maybe don't celebrate birthdays, they couldn't do Happy Birthday Kaya, and there's
Right,
no
and then
like
Christmas.
there's no like maybe like winter solstice holiday for the Nez Perce. So like it kind of made sense that they like deviated with that. And maybe after that they used that as their scapegoat to kind of move on
Push
from
away
the
from it.
classic formula. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the classic formula, I think
Let's
it's
get into
time
it.
to dive into Samantha's birthday. She's got a party to throw, and she's got a big old city to visit. So, jumping in with chapter 1, petticoats and is it petite fours?
I think it is. I always say petty fours, but I think it's petite.
Is that right?
No,
Okay.
I don't speak French. I say petty four, but I think it's petite four.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's the
It's
title
petite.
of this
It's French,
chapter,
isn't it? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Petite.
I mean, little.
Four. Yeah.
All right. So it's Samantha's birthday. The morning of her birthday, 2 redheaded little rascals, Cornelia's little sisters that we've had 0 lore dropped about before now, bound low-key kind of rudely into Samantha's room while she's asleep to wake her up and wish her a happy birthday with a bunch of roses and a huge ass bouquet that they've made. Again, not maybe in like the best way, which we'll talk about in a sec, but they're like, happy birthday, Samantha. Here's some roses.
Agnes and Agatha. And they're already like fully dressed, which I did feel like this is such a small nitpick, but I did think it was kind of insane that Samantha's like conked out, honk shoeing, and they're fully dressed in their entire outfits, like picking her roses. Like, look, is she slacking? Is Samantha okay?
Is she like also, I think I read this at some point in my notes. I think they're wearing the most heinous outfits. Their outfits are so ugly. They are the most horrific neon, and I understand it could just be the artistic rendition in these books, but they look like a mint green ice cream color,
Peppermint ice cream.
which theme of the book, but
Well, this is a good segue for me to just quickly get on my high horse with the lore of Caroline hating ugly things that maybe relates to how Caroline once felt about herself.
okay,
But
that's good.
you guys can tell I have like redder hair than I've had in the past. Again, still slightly blondie, but I'm a redhead naturally. And it seems like for a while there was a style, and I don't know if because redheads have curly hair sometimes or not, but it seems like there was a style idea that if you were a redhead white kid, you kind of had like just a short bob of like gingery curly hair, like the little Orphan Annie style hair. And I think that's such an insultingly bad look for people with red hair, honestly,
Yeah.
to have short hair. It's not. No, apologies to the short-haired, bobbed, redheaded, curly kids listening to this, but we have such beautiful examples of redheads like Ariel, with flowing red hair that I always hated the look of the like short cropped, girly, like mop top redhead. And that's what Agnes and Agatha have in this. And I remember just thinking, like, oh, what fucking nerds. And yeah, you're right. They're wearing these like insane matching, like mint green outfits with these giant, giant bows in their hair.
Again with
And
the
it's just,
bows.
it's not a great look.
No.
And I don't know. It's just one of those things where, like, for example, there's a 1980s version of Annie, and Annie has this hairstyle in it. And then there's the much better 1998 straight to DVD Disney movie of Annie that features Kathy Bates as Miss Hannigan. And the girl who plays Annie has like cute, short, like mid-length straight hair. Way better looking Annie. Like, I get it. I get why someone would adopt her. I don't get why someone.
Caroline, that's crazy.
Look, if I'm brave enough, I will post my worst school yearbook photo here of when I just had curly red hair, and my sister convinced me to like gel it for class, but I was also in 7th grade, so I didn't know how to do it properly. And in my 7th grade yearbook photo, it is like this short, like bright red, like fuzz crown, and it's taken me years to recover from that. So yeah, I had an issue with the twins when I was younger. They're cute kids, but yeah, the hair and the outfits are insane. Who's watching them? Why are they here?
I do feel like they did them like a disservice. And yeah, I feel like it's interesting because realistically, Cornelia's probably in her early 20s?
I'm going to guess 22.
Yeah, 22. Guard's probably like 25, 26. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the girls are probably Samantha's age-ish too, right? Unless I missed them saying their age. But
no, I'm guessing they're like 11.
Like, yeah, like
10, they do seem a little bit older and cool, but like not much. They seem like a year older. As we talked about with Kirsten, when it's like they're impressively older by being like half a year older than her. So
right, which I mean is very real. My cousins are 5 months older than me, and we don't really talk anymore. But when we were younger, they would like lord those 5 months over me about like how much older they were, and I was like, okay, it doesn't matter, but whatever. So her cousins, the twins, have cut up their petticoat that was old and outsized so that they could wrap the roses. And already, like, Samantha's getting this vibe that these are some rambunctious gals. These ladies,
they're kind of edgy kids.
They're kind of like edgy kids from the big city, New York City. Big old NYC, the Big Apple.
In New York City.
And so they're like, come on, like, hurry up. There's birthday breakfast getting made for you. And so she's like, okay, I just have to get dressed. And then she starts to put on her long
Petticoats.
underwear. And it's like,
well, it's gotta be June, right?
I don't know.
Because we're in Garden, corn dogs supposed to get married in June. And they're married now.
Yes. So maybe later. So it's like, but it wouldn't make sense. It would have to be in the fall because Samantha says that Grandmarie makes her wear them September through June.
So I think it's end of June.
So maybe she's just wearing them out through the end. It does seem really weird that we don't sometimes get more specifics on the time of year. They're just like a springtime story. And I'm like, but when is her birthday? Because I don't consider June spring.
I know we got we know Kirsten's birthday because it was written in the Bible.
Right.
By her mom, not by God. But yeah, the timeline for this was a little bit like muddied and a little bit confusing. But yeah, she has to wear her petticoats way too long into the year. It's like she has like July, August, September is only 3 months she can't wear her petticoat, which is kind of insane.
Wait, this says her birthday is May 26th.
So they got married earlier than they lied about. So they were liars.
I actually just suspect that writer didn't. I think that this is a classic ghostwriter conundrum of somebody just didn't check the character,
the previous
Bible,
writer,
and was like, well, who gives a shit? They're married now. Anyway, haha, who cares?
No, you're right. That's
Surely
the simplest. Sometimes
Surely 2 adult women won't nitpick every tiny detail of this book for media later in life.
Surely 20 years from now, 2 adult women aren't going to do a podcast about this children's book.
Analyze
and have a 2-hour episode on the book beforehand.
Well, we're already on track to run long here. So, sometimes women have things to say. I like to let women speak.
A theme of this book, actually, so it's perfect.
That's true. So anyway, the kind of insane energy is that the twins are like, girl, it is too hot for that long underwear. Don't you dare put that on. And she's like, but Grandma Marie makes me. And I did think it was a little nuts, even now knowing her birthday is in May. Most places, including on the East Coast, get pretty warm by like May or June. So the fact that I understand she's like supposed to be like proper and whatnot, but it's very funny that she has to wear this like underneath additionally like her tights and her stockings and her dress, because I'm sure that girl smells like fucking butt at the end of the day from the amount of sweat she must be pouring.
Well, even in the artwork where we were talking about the twins' big green outfits, Samantha looks so sweaty in this photo.
Yeah, she does look it looks like it's Grease City.
She looks haggard in this photo. But I guess like if you were woken up by 2 people throwing flowers at you too, you'd be a little bit haggard. But no, she lives in upstate New York, I think, or somewhere in New York, maybe not upstate, but in New York State. And so I went to school in central Pennsylvania, which is, I don't want to say exactly similar temperature-wise, but it's pretty cold in central Pennsylvania for around the same time as it's cold in upstate New York. I think they're kind of similar climates, and they're close enough. April was still kind of iffy. Like I can understand in April, but by May, it was like pretty hot and pretty humid enough that you wouldn't be wanting to wear petticoats underneath, like tights underneath your tights, basically. So it feels kind of insane, like I said, that there's only 3 months a year that Grandma Marie deems it appropriate to not wear petticoats underneath your skirts and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's kind of old-fangled
point
of view.
Indeed so. So the twins are like a little angel and devil on her shoulder, and they're like, why don't you just like make a decision for yourself? You're grown, you're 10. You're 10. So Samantha doesn't wear her long underwear, and she's like, wow, I feel so delicious. It feels so delicious to have the air on my legs over like through my tights as they like go down to breakfast. So she goes down to breakfast. And the twins are basically convincing Samantha that they're talking about like her birthday party that's coming up and she's going to have ice cream and cakes and all these things. And the twins are like, well, in New York, we have these things called Petit fours and it's lots of little cakes. So then Samantha is like, oh, well, Mrs. Hawkins, can we do 10 little cakes? And Miss Hawkins is like, 10 little cakes? Oh my, today? Oh my. Well, I suppose we could certainly try to do that. Haha. And then they're like, well, and we can't have boring ice cream. We have to put the ice cream in a little mold like they do in New York City in the ice cream parlors. And Samantha's like, oh, can we put the ice cream in a little mold like they do in the ice cream parlors in New York City? And Miss Hawkins is like, oh my God, maybe. And then
the whole thing with this too is that Miss Hawkins doesn't even know what Petit fours are.
No.
Like, she has never heard them before, and she's kind of like, I guess I can figure out how to
what
do
it
this
is
today.
Right.
But she probably already had like, she probably goes into the kitchen for this and throws away a cake that she had baked.
100% she's already done. Well, so then she's like, well, you could help me by like making the ice cream that like for your stuff. Just like basically get out of the fucking kitchen and you can go do that. And then she's like, well, what about if we make peppermint ice cream? And she's like, no, the ice cream will taste just as delicious as a plain vanilla ice cream molded as it would if it was peppermint. And Smith is like, so true. So then they shoot out of the kitchen and here's fucking fuck-ass Eddie Ryland. Just like at her house, further kind of confirming I'm not justifying it, but he's definitely bullying her because he's gonna like her in the future. Because he's like, hey, what are you guys up to? And they're like, nothing, go away. We don't like you. Bah. And then the twins are like ready to fight him. The twins
they have no ladylike
like
thoughts or
there's
hesitancies.
nothing. Yes, hesitancies is exactly it. They no part of them is like, ooh, that might make me look unladylike. They're like, okay, I'll fight right now. Let's go.
The only exact hair is Eddie, so they're all among the same type of people.
That's true. It's ginger o'clock.
Samantha and the Gingers is this book, basically.
So he's like, hey, and they're like, don't say hey. Hey is for horses. And he's like, I know everything about making ice cream, so allow me to help you guys. And they're like, no. And then he's like, go away. And then he's like, who's gonna make me? And then Agatha's like, I'll make you. And Samantha is like, uh-oh, she's about to fight. And she doesn't understand that girls don't fight. And she didn't think that telling her that would stop her. So she kind of just like lets it pan out. But she does her own de-escalation by being like, oh, all right, you can help us. And then she like right in front of him whispers to the twins and is like, if we just ignore him, maybe he'll go away.
Just so little kid coded. People are so mean.
And he doesn't. It like doesn't work. He watches like over their shoulders.
Yeah, the picture's good.
And like the picture's good. He's got his hand on one of the twins' like shoulder and he's like peeking into the ice cream
learning how to
bucket.
be a man and insert himself in situations no one wants him in.
Big time. Big time. I did say, unfortunately, it does seem like he was genuinely trying to be helpful because he gives them like a tip about like, oh, well, like don't let too much of the salt get into the container because if it gets inside, it'll ruin the ice cream. And the girls are like, we don't need you to boss us around. And he is being a shitty kind of know-it-all, but he's also like, right, he is being helpful in like sort of like unfortunate way.
I think it's one of those classic childhood situations where it's like, you don't know how to be anything other than annoying. And so when you're genuinely trying to be helpful, the way you're doing it is still annoying.
It's still annoying. Yes.
And it's like, you're genuinely like, I'm trying to like not be a jerk right now, but I'm always a jerk, you know? It's like, I feel like I went to school ways who had the same kind of, I think everyone went to school with like an Eddie Ryland type of boy who is just kind of up in their grill. And then you'd be like stuck on a school project with them. And they'd be trying to be helpful. They'd be trying to do things the right way, but you're so conditioned to kind of already be annoyed with them that it was useless. So it's his fault ultimately. And he'll grow out of it one day when he's sent to fight on the fronts and the trenches of World War I. But
big time.
Then he's just helping us make ice cream against our will.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like there wasn't any harm. I also feel like, if I'm being totally honest, them being dicks to him there end up like coming back to bite them in the ass.
It does.
At the party.
It usually does.
So, it usually does. Being an unnecessary asshole usually does come back to bite you. So we get to chapter 2, the party. It's very cute. Samantha is getting ready. She's tying the sash of her pinafore when Grand Marie comes into her room and brings her something to wear, which is this little I think it's silk roses on a little headband and it has little ribbons on it. And she says that this was her mother's headband when she turned 10. So I did think it was cute that she got to use the circlet that her mother wore.
It's very sweet. It's also very shocking to me that Grand Mary is her maternal grandmother for some reason. I've been assuming that like Bronston Parkington was her son. And yeah, I don't know. She just Grand Mary gave off boy mom energy to me.
Well, she's a gardener, so yeah, it's at least partial boy mom.
But this kind of does make the whole Lydia doll thing a little bit more fucked up because Before, I thought it was just saying, like, I thought Grey Mary might feel some ethos towards Samantha because, oh, like, yes, my husband's late wife. Like, I miss her too. And now she's like, that doll looks like my mom, your daughter, you know? And then she gives away doll mom.
Yeah, and she's like, bye. And then Grandmary's like, there goes my daughter again.
Again, I've lost her again.
She's lost to time twice now.
But it is a very sweet gift to be like, oh, here's this. And again, kind of vague mentions of Samantha's family and parents.
Yeah.
No
They're
photos
the
yet.
ghosts. No photos. So the party gets started, and all of her friends show up. They each have a doll in tow and a present in tow, and they all gather in. And the illustration is very funny. They all sit in a circle, and it's described that they all cross their little ankles over and tuck them kind of under the chair. You know who's not there? Nellie.
No, Nellie's uninvited.
All the other
Her
rich
best
girls,
friend, Nellie.
yeah, all the other little rich girls are there. And okay, this is my main note of this party. Both this sequence and the sequence in which they're having treats make it seem like they're obviously all trying to like play pretend at being grown up. But to me, and I'm going to spoil the peek into a past a little bit because I think it's important just for this chapter. The peek into the past talks a lot about how at the time Samantha was growing up was this kind of the first time in history that Americans,
Where a kid could be a kid.
yeah, where Americans were encouraging kids to play. They were building playgrounds. Toys were becoming more popular and more commercialized and more widespread, that like kids would go to parks and like play all together. So it's really funny to me that the peek into the past puts a lot of emphasis on how much more freedom kids were given sort of at this time. And then we read this birthday party in which the kids only end up having any fun and playing because Uncle Guard and Cornelia show up with their new dog, Jip. So, dog alert. This is the dog.
I think it's also a weird time. Like, kids were encouraged to be more kids, I think. They weren't doing chore like, never forget Kirsten was, like, begging for recognition on her birthday, and Papa was still like, have you done your chores yet? And they're like, hey, let her take a half day off, like feeding the family and knitting diapers. So it is a little different, but there is, I think, just that weird Victorian upper class element to things where it's like, you're turning into a young woman now too. So like they're being conditioned in their pseudo finishing school to kind of
be like
young
proper
ladies. So I do think there's an element of, it's also like when you're 10, you're like, oh, I am so grown up now. I want to be a grown up. So they are kind of cosplaying adults with nothing interesting to talk about.
So that was funny. So Samantha tries to bring up like the weather twice in this. She's like, such a beautiful day. And all the girls are like, And
they don't know what weather is.
So the sun is really, and then the twins are like, they throw her a bone and are like, why don't you open your gifts? So she opens all her gifts. And then her favorite gift is that the twins gift her a teddy bear, which is all the rage.
I know. It's so fun that teddy bears are like invented.
I agree. What a charming, I think it's a very charming gift.
It's a cute thing. I love Teddy Roosevelt. I love that he had because he didn't kill a bear, that we were like, let's monopolize on this and make a little toy out of it. I like that it's like an American thing. I think that's fun.
It's good.
And it also did just flashback, remind me in our group chat the other day when we found out there's a After Dark Build-A-Bear site where you can dress your bears up as like zaddies. The bear caves.
The bear cave. I love it, you know? Why not? Adults have real money to spend. We can look at it later.
Yeah, we'll go check it out.
We can go to the bear
on
caves.
our Patreon, guys. Join us as we live stream
as we go on the bear cave. But yeah, so I agree. I think you're right that there is that edge of wanting to appear more like prim and proper than they are. And I'm sure Samantha feels like pressure that Grand Marie is like watching and probably like, be proper, Samantha. So help me God.
And Elsie's gonna snitch probably too.
Big time. But so Cornelia and Guard show up with their little puppy. His name is Jip. And immediately it sort of like breaks the ice.
Chaos. Yeah.
It does cause chaos. So all the girls like jump up and they bound over, and like Cornelia's like, he even knows a couple tricks. But then when like the girls try to like get him to do the tricks, he's like a puppy, right? So he's still figuring shit out. And he's very excited. And then in the distraction, in the kerfuffle, Eddie has shown up to the party to ransom Samantha's teddy bear against her. He's like standing up on a chair and he's like, if you don't let me play with that dog, I'm gonna.
Mine.
The teddy bear gets it. Okay, kid, relax.
Where are Eddie's parents at any time?
Never around. Never around, except the one time they were making rude comments about Nellie's family being
Nellie's
poor.
family were having jobs.
Yeah, being
So maybe we don't need
workers,
his parents around.
the child laborer.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Pup alert.
Yeah, he's feeling a little interested in. He loves Jip.
Big Jip fan. But so
Yeah.
Eddie
Anyway,
is like
continue.
ransoming the teddy bear. So the girls all like turn on him as a collective and they start calling him like a nincompoop and they're like mocking him.
It's rude. It is a little bit like there's 8 to 10 girls just calling Eddie like a nincompoop, which I think is a rude word at this time. Kind of just because he wants to join in the party but doesn't know how to healthily establish that he wants to be a part of the party. Like,
Yes.
it is ultimately a little bit sad.
Yeah. Well, he says it. He's like, well, I want to play with the dog and I want to have some ice cream because I helped make it. And she's like, you can't play with the dog because it's my Aunt Cornelia's, and you can't have any ice cream because you're not invited to my party.
Yeah, and I get it, but he deserves it, but it's also just we do young boys disservice by not teaching them how to like properly interact in these situations.
Yes.
You know?
I agree completely. So he's at a disadvantage here. And he gets it gets so like heated that as they're mocking him, Agatha tackles Eddie to the ground.
Someone's got to do it.
By like tackling him around his knees, knocks him to the ground, and then rips the bear out of his hands, and then runs back through to the girls at the party. And then like basically like leads like a stampede of the girls back to like the yard in front of the house. And then when
and they're all chaotically chasing Jip around, right?
yeah, it's very because like Jip kind of makes a break for it as they're playing for him. He like bursts through a hedge, and that's what gives Eddie the chance to steal the bear, and then leads us to the aforementioned events. Now, when the girls will kind of roll back up in front of Grand Marie, she's like, "So now, my heavens, whatever has happened here?"
Why you guys look so beat?
These girls are given Lord of the Flies. Okay, they're given ragged. They're given crazy.
All the bows are askew.
All the bows are askew, and she's like, "I see." And very sneakily, they fail to mention the tackling incident. And Grenmarie's like, "I see, very interesting. Well, why don't you little girls come on over and sit down and have some lemonade?" So part 2 of the prim and proper party, they all get little fans, and they like are fanning themselves.
Little fan favors.
I think that's cute. I think party favors should come back.
I love getting party favors.
I miss a good party favor.
Yeah, a little bag of treats for you because you went to someone's party. I love that.
Why not? That's slays. So bring back party favors in 2025. But then they're having all their little treats. All of her little cakes come out, and everybody's enjoying the amazing little cakes. They're all excited, oohing and eyeing. And then it's time for some ice cream. And she asks for it Samantha, in her big grown-up voice. She's like, "I would care for some ice cream." Hawkins, dingle, dingle. And Hawkins brings out these delicious little ice creams. And they're not delicious, turns out. And one of the better arts.
Twists.
Yes, and twists. All the girls are making like horrific gagging, choking faces in the illustration. Like bleh. And it turns out that Eddie went and tasted the ice cream on his own. And while he did it, he went and he fucked with it and he put a bunch of salt in it, completely ruining her birthday ice cream. And you know what?
They're being bitches to him.
Yeah, I was going to say, she kind of deserved it.
I agree. They all are gagged on this ice cream. They are disgusted by it. It probably did taste bad. But all they had to do was give him, and like, yeah, honestly, I don't like Eddie. I'm not an Eddie fan, but if he did help make the ice cream and he did contribute, give him a scoop, you know?
Give him a scoop. Like, why not?
And the best way to avoid this is say you get the last scoop so that he can't tamper with it.
Exactly. Also,
know?
just let him sit at the table. Like, it seems like he, again, like you said, is just a kid who everything comes out as annoying, but he's not ultimately like that much of a pest until you ignore him or hurt him. And then he's like, oh, well, I'm going to fuck your shit, Samantha Parkington.
Don't mess with people, you know? You never know what they're capable of. Sometimes they salt your ice cream.
So kind of deserved it. So anyway, so the girls all kind of like push their ice cream away, and she's kind of bummed, and Samantha's like, this is the worst birthday party I've ever had. But then the twins kind of conspire together, and they're whispering, and they go over to Cornelia, and they're whispering, and they're like, well, we have an idea. You're going to come visit us in New York City, and we're going to go to a real ice cream parlor all together, just for you.
For a second, I thought they were inviting all the little girls, and I was like, this feels super chaotic, and
This
like,
seems
whose
insane.
parents are going to sign off on this?
Yes.
But they only invited Samantha, so.
So Samantha's like, oh my gosh, yes. And she's like, Grand Marie, can I please go? And Grand Marie's like, yes, of course. And me also such as well. I've been meaning to get some peppermint ice cream.
She's like, you're going to count me in on that birthday excursion.
Yeah, she said, oh yeah, you're not going to the big city all by yourself, little miss.
And we did forget to mention Uncle Guard's lame joke of the moment where he comes up to the birthday party and he says, Happy Sam Day, Bertha. And all the girls are laughing. Like, Uncle Guard is so funny. He is so crazy.
It's a little tough. It's a little puffy if we're being honest here. So Uncle Guard, classic jokester. He's keeping it real. He's keeping it toy for his wife.
His wife, who he married earlier than expected.
Yeah, at some point, maybe nebulously in time. It doesn't matter. So anyway,
no
it's a
timeline.
secret. Timeline who? But here we go. We're in New York City. Chapter 3, New York City. New York.
The Big Apple.
The Big Apple.
Big Apple.
Your dreams can come true.
NYC. Just got here this morning. 3 bucks, 2 bags, 1 me.
Yeah. And Samantha actually wrote that song. That's what we learned.
I love that song.
It's a good song. It's a good song.
The musical Annie is really just like, I know it's the 30s, so we'll get back to it with Kit, but it's not only for children, it's for it's a really good musical.
I like that you didn't finish the thought. Well, you did, but it's not just for kids.
Dazzle. I mean, the NYC music number is like, I don't know. It really captures the city in a way that we've lost, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it's really the epitome of New York City, you know? And now it's like, ugh, New York City. Like, we gotta get back to, like, the glitz and glam of New York, you know?
I agree. That's how I feel about Las Vegas. I think Las Vegas has lost the glitz and the glam and is now just, like, a trailer park on steroids, like Trash City, and I need it to be back to, like, the glamour. Why are we wearing flip-flops on the casino floor? You should be in a closed-toed or open-toed heeled shoe if you're a lady or a feminine person, and you should be wearing a closed-toed little dress shoe. Why are we in flip-flops in a casino?
We should bring back glamour to cities.
I agree. We've lost the sauce. I mean, you know, I'm always on my tirade about Austin. And nobody dresses the fuck up here.
Including me, but you know.
But you do dress up for, like, events where it's appropriate. I'm specifically bitching about the fact that, like, that club that we went to for New Year's Eve where we saw Justice was originally going to have a dress code that basically was just like, don't wear sports jerseys, you can't wear ball caps, and like no like open-toed shoes for men. And they were basically bullied out of their dress code because people were like, well, this is Austin, we don't do dress codes. And I was like, that's not even like black tie or like high end. Like, they're not, the bars on the fucking ground, you guys can't even hit that.
People like to be upset by things that don't matter in some situations.
I agree. I'm like,
It's just
then,
like
then don't go if you're not going to dress
there's
up.
so many other yeah.
So many
No,
other.
I agree with you.
So
There's so many other and also I feel like you can like you just kind of said. I'm not super dressy, but I know how to look dressed, you know. You don't have to like I don't know. You can be your own level of dressed up and I think be appropriate in most situations. It just requires like yeah, no, I do think there's a little bit of like in the 21st century, maybe it's because we're all depressed, but we've lost a little bit of the like, I'm gonna get jazzed up and look good and walk around the
Yes.
town and paint the
Yes.
town red. You
Yes.
know?
It needs to come back. Yes, exactly. So the girls are Samantha is very excited. They roll into the city in their horse-drawn carriage, which again, I just still think is more fun because now they're in the big city. There's much more cars and there's a lot more like progress here. So there's a lot more hustle and bustle than in their kind of small town where Guard's car is really such like an outlier and stands out as like so obnoxious. But here there's lots of cars and there's police vehicles and all these different things like kind of whizzing around. So I thought that was fun. Grand Marie and Samantha sort of have a passing conversation about the twins, in which Grand Marie basically comments that they are full of rambunctious, newfangled kind of ideas, and sometimes the old ways are the best ways. And Samantha should remember that. She's making some widespread, offhanded remarks about their family way of raising people.
I don't know if Grandma loved having the twins over.
Definitely not. It's giving, I would love to never see them again kind of a vibe.
Yeah, she said they kind of ruined the vibe of my sweet
Of my
country estate.
peaceful home, yes. So it's very funny. As they're crossing through the city, though, they come across a rally in Madison Square Park, which is a women's right to vote rally. Yay!
Hell yeah.
It's the suffragists. Yay, we love them. But Grand Marie is deeply displeased. First, because they have to take like a detour because they can't go straight through to Cornelia and Guard's house because they have to circumvent this rally, but also because she thinks that they are full of silly, newfangled, which is used many times in this book, ideologies.
Almost as a slur.
Yes, very much so. Very much like it's the worst kind of idea you could possibly have as a woman. So it's very funny. She's very frustrated. And then they show up at the house and the twins are in such a tizzy. They ask her all these sorts of different questions. And then I just made a note of this sequence where Grand Marie says she's going to go shopping. And then she's like, well, O'Neill's, which is near the rally. And nowhere else. And kind of rudely brushes off like Guard and Cornelia's suggestion of like a nicer new shop on Fifth Avenue. Because on my first sort of read through, I didn't clock that Cornelia was actually probably trying to shove Grand Marie away from the park because she was going to be there. But on my first read through, I was just sort of like, why is Grand Marie being such like a bitch about not wanting to try any other shops? Because she's set in her
she's
old
stuck
ways.
in her old ways. Yeah.
But then on my second read through, I was like, oh, I get it now. Like, I see what we were trying to do here.
I bet they were trying to get her to go to Macy's.
I was going to ask you what store you thought. Because I was like, maybe they were doing like Saks Fifth Avenue.
I think I'm going to guess, I'm going to guess it's either Saks or Macy's. I'm trying to look up if O'Neill's is even still a thing. It looks like it. Let's see. Maybe not. No, it's a restaurant.
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
I'm guessing it's an old department store. It looks like there's a sporting goods store, so maybe it turned into that. But I don't know, some brands you'd be surprised. Abercrombie has been around forever, since like the 1850s.
Sure, and then just like change over time. Kind of like, I mean, it's a sillier example, but the way like Stanley cups were actually just like Stanley brand, like it was like a workman's brand for a really long time. And then with like the sort of reinvigoration of their brand through the cup, it became like a totally different brand, although it has a different legacy.
There was I was watching some old movie from like the 1930s or something and they're doing a song about how well things go together, and they say, like, "We get along like Abercrombie and Fitch." And I remember kind of pausing and not realizing the brand had lasted that long. It used to be, I think, like a hunting sportswear kind of outdoorsy, wealthy person thing, and then it is transformed into Caroline coded millennial woman, like beige, expensive clothing.
Yeah, that's hey, who among us, you know?
But no, I guess this is actually a fun fact, which is kind of goes along with the women's rights movement of this. So, did you know that back in the day, public toilets they didn't have this is going to be a little bit of a diatribe, so hold on. But public toilets didn't used to be accessible to women because they didn't want women to stray too far away from the home. So any public toilet was for men only back in the day. I'm not exactly sure the time period. I'll put it on like a little screen if I find it when I'm editing the episode. But they used to try and discourage women from traveling too much. And the only reason they started adding public toilets and public restrooms into places was because like women started shopping and they wanted people to stay out longer and shop. So the only reason we have rights to go to the bathroom in public was so that we could buy things. And similarly, I saw something about this other day that made me think, you know how there's that trope that women spend way longer in the bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
There are less stalls for women in bathrooms because men just have urinals. So you can fit where you could fit 6 urinals, you can fit 4 toilets, basically.
Sure.
So men are not going faster, that women aren't like dawdling on the toilet. It's that there's less people going in and out. Like basically there's more of a, what is it called when things, you know, there's a bottleneck when women go to the bathroom, kind of. So it just like, I guess the point of that was that it's just like I think this from some of my like history lessons in the era and stuff, this is kind of when like the shops started coming out and people started kind of experiencing. We heard it a little bit in like Kirsten when like because of like the railways and things moving along, you could get more products all over the country. So they started building more. They had surplus. They started building shops. So just kind of interesting to see like in the like Gilded Age kind of era of things how like now Grand Mary's shopping and she always shops at O'Neill's and she won't try anyone else.
She'll be returning.
Huh. She's missing
That's
Saks
a fun
Fifth
fact.
Avenue. It probably is Saks, you're right. Saks Fifth Avenue, because they're kind of around that area.
To be honest with you, that's the only, other than like Macy's, that's the only other real big department store right now. But I just know it has Fifth Avenue in the title and a lot of its branding. So I was wondering if they were like, wink. So anyway, so she's very much trying to like push her off. And then just as like sort of a quick tag, the guard and Cornelia have purchased Samantha an additional sort of like birthday gift, which is a doll carriage, the little pram.
Which you can buy.
Really?
I'm
That's
pretty
adorable.
sure, yeah.
And then you could put your little coconut dog in there.
Mm-hmm.
She gifted the dog or the doll carriage, and then you know, they are like, well, let's go out and play in the park nearby. And they're like, well, let us bring Jip. And Cornelia and Guard are like, well, do you remember what happened last time? And the girls are like, yeah, but this time is so different. This time we'll keep the dog on a leash and we won't let them go far away. And we'll go to a park with a fence around it. Surely a dog can't slip through a fence. Duh, stupid Aunt Cornelia. You don't get it. And she's like, okay, as long as the dog is on a leash and you return home like promptly and you stay in just the park, you don't go any further, then I suppose you guys can go out and play. But I have a meeting at 3:30, so I won't be back until later for the ice cream because they're gonna go get ice cream.
A meeting
later. A meeting, eyeballs. Hopefully it's not about.
we also didn't mention that Grand Mary was kind of bitching about the like protesters, and Cornelia was like, "Oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with that." Grand Mary's like, "I think there's something terribly wrong with it." And
Yes,
then
that's right.
like Samantha kind of notes that Cornelia like looks like she wants to say something but doesn't, you know.
Yeah, she holds her tongue. It's more of that classic Victorian politeness standoff.
Yes.
Who can be more passive is the one who wins in the end.
Which is the way that life should be, you know.
That's true.
Just minor aggressions.
Just stare down and then and you move on. But so they go off to the park and we hit chapter 4. Follow that dog.
Follow that dog.
So they go to the park and they're letting Jip sniff around. But okay, so my note here is that, of course, like children often do, they almost immediately get sick of taking care of the animal. who is
Yes.
obvious he's getting tired. He's being like fussy. He's being squirrely, and they don't want to really be attentive to him. So they're all fussing over like who's going to carry him and who's going to take care of him. And then they're like, wait, the twins are like, hang on, big idea here. What if we just put him in the doll pram and we can tote him around?
Now that's interesting, Samantha says.
And Smith is like, no, I like that. And this sounds like a great merchandising opportunity. So she puts the dog in there, and then they take his leash and like twist it, like wrap it around the handle of the pram.
Yeah. Like, I think I wrote in my note for this, it's not a bad idea, it's just executed poorly.
Yes.
Like, they should have knotted the leash. Like, as someone who currently has a dog, if you don't want to hold on to their leash, there are ways that you can kind of tie it so that like you can go hands-free for a second, or you can like release it without worrying about them getting too far away or swirling out. But if you just like loop it around, the second they tug, they're going to pull it out. So it just does feel a little bit like, it's not a terrible idea if you don't want to hold a dog and you have to hold the dog to put him in like a moving stroller. People have dog strollers. It's just, you got to be ready for the fact that the dog is still a living creature. And I think they're too young to realize that.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, like you said, good idea, bad execution. The dog immediately rips off like his leash from the handle and bolts away, and then slips through a fence. So
Because
everything,
he's tiny, he's a puppy.
he's a little guy. So everything that can go wrong does go wrong. Agatha trips pretty gnarly style as they like race out into the street to get him. And she very dramatically is like, no, leave me behind. And Samantha just like doesn't even like take her bullshit nonsense. She's like, get up, we need you.
But she's like, quit it. Get up.
She's like, okay.
Too
And
bad.
she basically like hoists her back up and is like, we
Grabs
need
her by the
you.
bone. Flips her up.
Grabs her by the bow, tosses her up, and is like, you can do it, rally. So they like run out into the street.
There's so much chaos in this scene too. Like, I do think well written, poorly written, the terms that whoever wrote this didn't fact check the book before and see that the wedding shouldn't have happened yet. But well written, the fact that I was like, everyone is about to get crushed. Like every 2 seconds, something is like firemen, a horse-drawn bus is like going down the street. Like there's just so much pure chaos and people that I think they do capture the feeling of like, I remember we had a dog when I was little, and she would escape all the time, and it was so stressful. Like just like panic chasing this dog, worrying that something bad was going to happen, and there was like a very good, I feel like, element of like pure chaos written in this chapter.
Oh, 100%. I think you described it well, which is that like I also think like being a little kid in a big city too, like how overwhelming it is to like try to catch up. And Samantha is used to like the slow kind of provincial life, and now she's like, the dog is missing. My cousin, my twin cousins, they'd be her cousins, right?
I would call them, I think for simplicity's sake, I would call them cousins.
Yeah, her like twin cousins are getting fucked up for trying to get this dog back, and they're like, oh my god, we're never gonna get him back. We're like, it's kind of like the chapter in Kirsten's book, Lost. It has the same
Lost.
energy.
New York is hard for American girls.
Big time. I think that maybe the moral is no more girls should be going to New York City.
New York City.
But so they don't find Jip before the end of the chapter, and they are just generally overwhelmed by the hustle and bustle. And that's when we hit chapter 5, changes.
Changes.
Change house.
Change.
Trying to change no.
Changes.
So we pick right back up, and Jip is spotted. But he's headed towards Madison Square Park. And Samantha is like the twins seem kind of concerned about this for one reason, which we'll learn almost immediately. But Samantha is like, well, like Grandma Marie won't be mad at us if that's what you're worried about. Like if we just go and chase him and tell her that like he ran off into the park. Like, and we're like, no, we're not worried about that. We're worried about if Cornelia sees us. And Samantha's like, why? And they're like, well, because she's gonna go to that meeting. We heard her tell Uncle Guard that she was going to go to the meeting. And Samantha's like, oh, what? So she has to let this shock kind of go because they have to run after the dog. And Jip does
She's like,
go,
whoa, 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 what?
whoa, whoa, whoa. And
Also,
they,
just so people know, sorry, real quick,
yeah.
Madison Square Garden Park and Gramercy Park are like a mile and a half away from each other. So they really like booked it
They're
through the
hiking
city.
it. They're hiking it. These poor kids. Yeah, so the thing is that Jip's got a vision, he's got a plan, okay? So he's bopping and weaving through this crowd of suffragists, slay. And he is headed right for the stage. And who could be there on the stage but a familiar face? Miss Cornelia Pitt herself. Well, whatever her new name is. Corn dog Miss Cornelia is up there and she is ready to revolutionize these women. It's time for women to vote.
Women and women first.
Women and first. I don't know what I just said. I was trying to know what you said, but I think I had a minor stroke. So she does her speech, and the girls kind of like sit there in the crowd and patiently wait for all of the other women to kind of get their speeches done with. And Cornelia comes down and finds them. And I mean, she lectures them, but it's pretty gently. It just basically like, why didn't you think this through? And like,
I
you were
told
so
you so.
foolish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I suspected as much would happen. Like, shame on you guys. And basically, the twins and Samantha are like, well, because Cornelia says something along the lines of like, you can't always think like things are going to change just because like you want them to be so. And they're like, well, aren't you trying to change things? Like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, if you want to change things, you better make sure that they are changes for the better. Which I love. I think, and you also love it. You wrote that.
I do. I think this is inspirational in the year of our Lord 2025, given everything that's already happening. Like, be the change you want to see. I think a little bit of inspiration with, like, again, not to be on a stupid little high horse, but I do feel a little bit like the suffragette movement, like, no one wanted women to have voting rights.
Yeah.
Like, not no one, but it
Lots
wasn't
of
a
people.
popular idea. And so, like, you hear it even Granberries, like, it wasn't even necessarily because people didn't want it, it's because it didn't happen. And not a lot of other countries had it happen, like, at different points in time. So there is a little bit of, I think a lot, and I think you see a lot today, where people are like, well, why would we change things when they're working? And it's like, well, they're working for you. They're not working for everybody. And
Right.
so it does take little things like suffragettes meeting in a park and doing like speeches and talking to people so that like stupid as it sounds, so that people like Grand Mary hear it. And
Yeah.
like
And
think
change.
about, oh, I didn't think about it like that. So I think there is something that's kind of nice about her saying, like, if you want to change something, like change it for the better and like work hard to change it, because I think that's a nice lesson.
It's a
like,
good moral to
it's
teach young girls.
It's a very Vaseline idea of the suffragette movement, obviously, for this kid's book. But I do think it is kind of nice to show kids that, like, hey, look, these weren't always things that we had rights to, and people worked hard to kind of
Give them to
make
us.
sure that you had them. And I think they're, like I said, as cheesy as it is, there's a lot of things right now that I think aren't going well for people in the way that they have traditionally gone well, or that we're having to work on. And I think a lot of people get discouraged by the fact that, like, well, not everyone's behind me, or like, it doesn't feel like anyone's behind me. But it's like, well, then find the group that is and work with that group and work harder to make that group a bigger thing. Because if you can find more people, there's strength in numbers. And just because it feels small doesn't mean it can't get big. So like, that's my kind of soliloquy of the episode.
Yeah.
That, like, I was touched by it a little bit. I think like we love Cornelia on this podcast. And I think she's a good character. I think I remember liking her as a little kid, thinking she was like very pretty and very cool and very like newfangled. And I like her as an adult. I think she's a good example of like a modern woman for kids, you know?
Oh yeah. 100%.
And I like that she's like Aunt, you know, like.
Yeah, well, she's like, I would say, I think you and I talk about this a lot, but I think she's the type of woman that like you or I would want to be to like our friends' kids and things like that, which is just like a positive role model, or somebody that like they can look up to and be like inspired by like the things that we do or the activities we get up to or the ideas that we have. So I agree. Cute. Well, they kind of go through a little apology tour with Cornelia. They do ask for her forgiveness, and she's like, well, very well, like it's no harm done, I suppose. And she's like, but we are running late for ice cream with Grand Marie. So they head to the ice cream shop, and Grand Marie is there, and she's looking like fussed up. She's in the corner. She's like a little red in the face, a little frustrated. She's TikTok on the clock. And they're like, we're so sorry. Like, we were late. Like, what's going on? And like Samantha, like, almost trips over herself and like exposes that like Cornelia was on the stage because she's explaining why they're late and all the kerfuffle with the dog. And then because she almost stumbles, Cornelia ends up just revealing to Grand Marie herself, like, it was me who was up on the stage, like speaking at the rally. And Grand Marie Uno reverse cards her and is like, I know, I was there.
I saw it. I saw that.
I was listening.
I was literally right there.
But the funnier part is, okay, because she does sort of come around on these newfangled ideas. She has her mind changed, but it's very curmudgeonly the way that she sort of describes coming across it. Basically that like she couldn't get to do the shopping as easily. Yeah, she couldn't get to O'Neill's in the way she wanted to. So she was like, well, I guess if I can't get there, I might as well stick around and see what all the hubbub is about. And then I just like, I appreciated to your sentiment earlier. I think more than ever, you meet a lot of people now who are very set in their ways and aren't open to changing their minds on stuff, even if, you know, you're willing to have a conversation. So I did like that, you know, with Grand Marie. It's like you said, it's a simplified version of the nuance of this movement, but that an older woman who is also important to Samantha is allowed to change her mind and come around on this thing that just earlier in the book she was essentially shitting on is nice. And I think it's cute that Samantha gets to see her grandmother. Like, it doesn't happen behind her back. It happens in front of her face, involving the two women.
Yeah, and I mean, not to like be ham-fisted with a metaphor at all, too, but like Grand Marie isn't totally like, I'm totally on board. I'm a suffragette now. I'm like, rah rah, tell me when the next rally is. But she does kind of bend a little bit to be like, I understand why this is important to you. And it goes back to the idea that like, just because you don't want something doesn't mean you should deny it to others. You know, like maybe Grand Marie will never vote. But that doesn't mean that Grand Marie has to be opposed to other women voting.
Yeah.
Like, so like, it's like, yeah, give me the freedom to choose if I vote or not. Veiled metaphor.
Yeah. No.
But I do think there is something nice to show that Grand Marie, and I think it is nice that Grand Marie isn't necessarily like I said, like, oh yeah, rally,
Yes.
like burn my bra. But she is just, I understand why you do this. I thought your speech was great. Like, let's get ice cream. Let's move on. Like, there isn't a lecture. There's a little bit of just I respect
what you're
your
doing.
movement, you know? And I think that's all we should try and do. You don't have to necessarily understand other people's beliefs, but as long as it's a personal belief that I think benefits, gives that, like, as long as it's a personal belief that I think just would improve someone else's life, it shouldn't affect you, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, I think kind of to that point,
So,
at the
sorry to
end,
get so political in this episode, but damn,
the
I was riled up by the suffragette movement.
the American girls are kind of inherently political, whether people want
They
them
are
to
a little
be
bit.
or not. You can't go through history and not be a little like politically charged.
Show your hand a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So Grand Marie, I will say the cute thing at the end is Grand Marie is also getting peppermint ice cream because like some things are just like the standards. But she does say that growing up is what we've come to celebrate after all. And so I did think that that was just like a cute little cherry on top, haha, ice cream sundae. Because
you go.
it's true, because I think it's not just, it's sort of a subtle wink of like, it's not just Samantha growing up, literally turning 10, but also like experiencing all these new things. And then Grand Marie also, like, you're never too old to change and grow up, even if you're an adult.
Exactly. No, I thought it was I did like everyone getting peppermint ice cream at the end because some things don't need to change.
Yeah.
But some things do.
Women's rights. But yeah,
The
so
women's rights to vote.
I will say, so that's the end of the book. The Peek into the Past is actually really just a high-level covering of the different life stages of kids in Samantha's era.
Kind of weird.
I really was like, I put my note, which is that there's only one super short mention of like the suffragist movement at the end, which is basically that.
Which felt like they should have focused on it.
I completely agree, because instead it's like, okay, Samantha like would have been like a little baby, probably born at home. Then like play was more popularized as like over time we decided like children shouldn't be working in factories. And then it says like as somebody like Samantha gets older and becomes a teenager, she'd participate in more adult like activities and wear more adult clothing and maybe go to like a finishing school where she would learn how to like run a household and like manage servants and throw parties. But then it's like, or maybe she'd go on and become a suffragist. And then I read this quote that I loved from the end that feels, as you wrote, tough, and it just feels like a little yucky, which is, whatever those young ladies chose to do, they left childhood behind forever. Okay.
Yeah. Still tough to be a girl.
Yeah, I was like, that's a bummer. So, kind of wrapping up, honestly, this book wasn't bad, but it wasn't my favorite either. I think it's mostly because there's it has the same effect as the Kirsten Saves the Day book for me, which is it has two plots in it, like two main plots in a 5-chapter book. And I feel like it could have done maybe a little bit more service to the suffragette plot. I mean, I think it did fine. Like you said, it is a children's book. It doesn't need a deep dive. But I would have liked maybe less time at the prim and proper weird birthday party. And like
bummer party.
Yeah, the bummer party, and more time maybe seeing like Samantha exploring New York with her cousins.
I agree. I think I like it more as we talked about it because I got so riled up about suffragettes and like women's rights and how we're still in the year 2025 fighting for women's rights. But I think I do agree where it is kind of like a little bit of the Curse of the American Girl doll book sometimes where there's like two different stories trying to be told at once and they just they could only have 6 books, so they tried to figure out how to basically put 2 in one. But I remember really liking this book because I thought it was cool how there was 2 different, as a kid, like how they went to New York City and like that was a plot twist, like a shift in the books for me.
Yeah.
Until this point, I feel like all the American Girl books are kind of one location-y. Like they might go to town, they might do that, but this felt like a complete shift from a location in a way that I thought was kind of cool for the book to try and do. And I also think it was interesting with how they did this because it does kind of bring into like the change of the century where there's city kids like Agnes and Agatha who are kind of growing up in a little bit more of a more modern environment.
Yeah.
And then there's kids growing up in the suburbs like Samantha who are still kind of, I guess, positioned to the old ways in a way. And I think it's kind of, as much as Agnes and Agatha are kind of like a random like Nellie Coff replacement, I did think it's kind of fun to see them just be a little bit like more confident, a little bit more like rule breaky, a little bit less ladylike while still being like little ladies, and kind of showing Samantha that like it's similarly to like what you said in our last episode with Cornelia like getting wrecked on the sled. It's kind of a way of showing Samantha that there's different ways to still be a young lady.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of something that was only starting to be true at the beginning of the turn of the century. Whereas like even in the Peek into the Past, they kind of briefly mentioned that like there were becoming more paths for young women. Like you probably wouldn't, but you could go to college. Like you could further your education. You could
pursue these other
before
things.
this, I feel like the only job a woman could have was like a teacher. And it's still kind of similar to that. But I do feel like this is showing that there's a few avenues opening up. And I think showing that through the suffragettes is like a kind of a fun way to do that. And having Cornelia be kind of like suffragette light. You know, she's such a sybil. Cornelia would wear pants, I think.
Oh, 100%.
Like slacks. She would wear like the little civil genie outfit.
I feel like she wears them in New York.
I'm gonna watch that tonight.
She just wears, so good. I feel like she wears her woman pants in New York City. And then when she comes to town, she's like, where are my like most prudish dresses so Grand Marie doesn't freak?
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of weirdly like more like a change book to show just how things were getting to be different in different areas of the country. Like
Oh yeah.
cities were becoming more modernized and kind of more familiar to what we know now, whereas maybe in the country, and I think even showing kind of a stiff birthday party is like a good way of demonstrating that, where these little girls are kind of stuck in their ways or stuck in the ways that they think they're supposed to
Just to
be.
be. Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. I thought it wasn't the most meaty of the books, and it definitely kind of, like you said, felt almost a little bit thin because they tried to stuff too much into it.
Yeah.
But I do think there were some kind of interesting, like, seedlings of lessons that are popping up from it that maybe probably won't continue on to the next two books. But it just
It
kind
would
of
be
it
cool
made
if they
me
did it.
think more than it made me think more than some of the other American Girl doll books because I think they just planted ideas in a way that they don't usually, which I kind of thought was cool.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping that there will be a little bit more payoff since this is really sort of the movement that is starting that was relevant to our girl. So here's hoping.
Fingers crossed.
No, kids, this is the end. Next time it's
This is
time
the
for her to save the day.
Save the day. Do we
Save
think
the
she
day?
actually saves the day?
I do. I feel like she's going to really save the day. She's already kind of been saving the day.
What's your high-low of Nellie being in the next book?
Oh, I think high.
You think Nellie's in the next book?
I think we'll at least get a cameo, a little cam. Yeah.
I don't remember, so I'm just asking.
Okay, what do you
Um,
think?
I do remember Agnes and Agatha are in the next book.
Okay.
So something's telling me that we cannot have Nellie and Agnes and Agatha in the same book.
Interesting. That does seem true. It does seem like they exist in different universes. So,
Like there is a Harry Potter and Voldemort where neither can live while the other survives. So I don't think. I think if Agnes and Agatha are there, then Nellie is never, because Nellie wasn't even mentioned in this.
yeah, no, not at all. She's like my friend who I didn't invite to my birthday. She's poor, so it's not like she could bring me a gift anyway.
It's not like she could bring a gift, and her doll is beat up. So ew.
Her doll is grody, even though I made it a little jacket. That's to cover up the
But
grime.
Samantha does wear a cute little sailor outfit in the next one.
Okay, I have seen that outfit before. I do like that outfit. I
Mhm.
think it's one of the best American Girl doll outfits. I'm liking
Oh, yeah, it's super
Samantha a lot
cute.
more than I thought I would.
Really? Now she's a good kid. Like I said, I apologize in I think our second episode for calling her a brat so much during Kirsten. And she's not a brat by choice. She's a brat by being raised by wealthy people. But she's a good kid. She tries her best.
She's well intentioned, which matters.
And she's got spunk.
She's got gumption.
She's a spunky gal, you know?
We love her. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
we do.
Send this to the person you want most to eat salty ice cream.
Send this to the boy who you tackled.
Send this to the dog you wish would come back home.
Send this to your dad if you want him to hear my rant about suffragettes in a subtle way to tell him to be better.
Post this on the wall of your most conspiracy-oriented family member.
Send this to your friend who lived in New York City for a year.
Send this to your friend who lives in a town where there are no cars.
And you know what? Share this with your dog, because dogs love podcasts too. If you didn't notice, my foster dog was fiending for this episode.
Dogs
I think
love
he just
podcasts too.
I think he just got bored.
Well, that's tough, but that's okay. It's not. It's for
okay.
him, but it's not. He's a boy.
It's not.
And this is American Girl talk.
And if you act quick, you could follow, subscribe, like, comment,
Share.
interact with us. Share this with everyone you know. Just put it on your wall. Like, the best way you can pay us is posting this on your story and saying, hee hee ha ha, these girls, hot, funny, interesting, not dolls, real women talking about dolls. And post that, tag us in it, and my God, we'll talk about you. We'll talk about you and we'll bleep your name out of the episode like we did earlier.
We'll print up the nice things that you write and hang them on our walls and carry you in our hearts forever. So think about that.
So just listen, share. Don't forget, follow our socials to find out more about that bar crawl thing we mentioned, because it's gonna be fun. Even if it's just the two of us, we're gonna have fun. And it could just be the two of us.
Don't say it like that.
I will say it like that because we always have fun. So
That's true.
Honestly, take or leave others. We want you there, but it's not going to be sad if you don't come.
Run, rabbit,
But you
run,
should.
Rabbit, run,
But you should.
Run,
All right. Love you guys.
run, rabbit,
Bye.
rabbit, run, run, run. Bang, 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 bang goes the farmer's gun. Run, rabbit, run, 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 run.